In part 1 we left the Root Boom Road and climbed up Scott Creek to a coal before camping in Death Valley. From there we dropped down K Creek to the Caples and started up Fraser Creek. If you haven't watched part 1, click the link on the screen. Today we're going to walk up to the headwaters of Fraser Creek and camp high, hopefully above the sandflies, because they were absolutely horrendous last night. We retreated to our tents rather quickly. We couldn't wait to get moving this morning and leave them behind.
See the deer?
I noticed the understory was surprisingly open. Seeing the deer confirms there's a fair amount of game here.
Second river crossing of the day.
Nice perfect reflection. The first hour and a half was steady travel, about 3.5 kilometres across often open grass to the 700 metre contour. But here's the catch. Once you hit that mark, the valley narrows and the easy sections are over. This is where the navigation becomes a choice. We tried bush bashing to save time, but actually the creek proved to be the better road. The mistake many trampers make is trying to fight the bush when the water is right there, providing much easier travel, albeit with wet feet.
Not a bad lunch spot.
It was slow going. It took us nearly 4 hours to cover the next 4 kilometres. When the valley pinches in like this, every step is assessed, but it's the quickest way to reach the head of the valley. We arrived around 1:30 and set up camp spread over 100 metres of the creek bank. We were well out of the sandfly zone by now, which meant a genuinely relaxed afternoon in the sun. I enjoyed the challenge today of route finding after lunch, when we spent most of our time walking up the creek. Lots of options, a few wrong choices. But who's complaining?
Today we've got to go up over that coal behind me.
The view is somewhat intimidating, but the plan is one I know works. A climbing sidle above the scrub, the same line we took back in 2014 when there was snow on the ground. We've got the route locked in, now we just need the legs to get to the top. We started by following the creek until we could locate a quick transition through the scrub to a big rock slide.
It goes over into Double Bell Stream. That's us up there.
When we hit the slide, it provided an easier path up the slope before starting to sidle above the scrub towards the coal. As we climbed higher, the early morning light hit the Eliza Mountains back down the valley. It's one of those views that reminds you why you carry a heavy pack into the middle of nowhere.
Campsite down there. And the cable's right down the bottom. Steel Creek up through there. And Jean Batten Peak up in there somewhere.
Reaching the coal gives us expansive views down Fraser Creek and over Root Burn Flats.
So we got Root Burn Flats down there, and it's a North Root Burn.
From here we have to get over Emily Pass, and we have two choices. We could take a high sidle following a GPX route from a previous party, but it was a no-fall zone above bluffs, or we could drop down a few hundred metres, take a low sidle and face a much longer climb back up. We scouted the high sidle and decided to take it. The dry conditions were perfect and we knew we could retreat if we had to. Actually, we were comfortable for the first few hundred metres, but then we hit a slippery gully where the view forward became obscured. I scouted ahead and found a viable route. It was definitely a no-fall zone, but it gave us the access we needed to start the climb up to the pass. After our lunch break, we faced an interesting scramble up a steep slope bypassing a dry waterfall. The climb now became less intimidating with better footing and stable handholds. Once we are on the pass, our relief is real and our redlining heartbeat slows to a more comfortable pace. You don't want to attempt this section in the wet, people.
There's Sugarloaf over there.
Yep, looking good.
And Earnslaw behind. There's Lake Mackenzie down there on the root boon.
With an extended break complete, we now had a slow 1 hour drop through scree and boulder fields towards another high camp on a moraine terrace.
Likely looking place for maybe a campsite.
It turns out the payoff was another great campsite beside some huge boulders.
A nice rock bivvy. A good place to have dinner tonight.
By 3 we had set up camp and retreated to a sheltered spot out of the wind and no sandflies. Yay! Yesterday was about navigation, today was about nav and keeping your nerve. A challenging day today with some out of their comfort zone, but we made it through incident-free and with smiles on our dials. A great effort by the crew. "5 days of near-perfect weather in the backcountry is a gift, and we've used it to knock off most of our route. But in these mountains, you know the reckoning is always coming. We had planned to scoot down to the Rootburn track and push for North Col, but the forecast just took a turn for the worst. When you see high winds and thunderstorms on the radar, your priorities shift instantly. Most people think the hard part of a trip is the climb. Actually, sometimes the hardest part is knowing when to sit still. We had 2 choices: drop down into the root burn to keep moving, or stay high and wait. But here's the thing, dropping down meant heading straight back into the sandfly zone. When you've already done your time as bait, staying high in a comfortable camp feels like the only logical move. It isn't exactly a quiet day off. We had sleep falling on and off, though it melted as soon as it hit the ground. Day 7 is bringing even higher winds, so the crew spent the afternoon moving tents into more sheltered spots. We are camped right below the flight path that helicopters from Queenstown and Glenorchy use to reach Milford Sound. Whenever the clouds break at the col above us, you hear the pulse of the rotors but rarely see them. It's a reminder of the world we left behind 6 days ago.
So enjoying the extra room I've got in this Durston X-Dome on a pit day. Got lots of room, as you can see. Sitting out in the annex. Everything's dry. All good. It's reasonably fine until late tomorrow afternoon, where we've got over 20 mil of rain forecast. So we've got to look at our options of bailing, hopefully before then. So I'll give you a report later in the day.
When you're stuck in your tent, you're usually reliant on lying down, but I got lucky on this trip. I brought a chair that actually fits inside the tent. It sounds like a luxury until you're the only one in the crew who can sit up and read while the wind and rain batters the tent outside. 600 grams well carried. Mid-afternoon on our second lay day, the weather started to improve and we managed to have dinner outside. The favourable forecast had us planning to leave early tomorrow and take the Rootbourne track back to the Rootbourne road end. Day 8, we had a reasonably fine morning. It stopped raining during the night. We had another night spare, but with 20 mil of rain forecast this evening, the thought of a pub meal and a few beers in Glenorchy sounded much better than another night in the elements with sandflies, so we've decided to bail. The stream bed was our best bet for a quick exit down to Lake Mackenzie. Reaching Lake Mackenzie was our first contact with other people in over a week. Passing the Great Walk huts is a stark contrast to our tents and bedrolls, bunks, drying rooms, the works. For us, the Rootbourne track was just a high-speed footpath back to civilization. Since my vehicle is in Glenorchy, I've split from the crew. My mission? Get to the trailhead first, hitch back to the car, and then ferry everyone else back to civilization. I'm a bit competitive, so I've set myself a target of 6 hours to hike from Lake Mackenzie back to the trailhead.
See our path snaking around the sides there.
I pushed through the last major climb of the trip, heading north towards the Harris Saddle. When you're motoring like this, the views matter less than the pace. The Hollyford Valley and the Darren Mountains were locked in cloud anyway.
See the track running to Harris Saddle. It's Conical Hill. So, the Valley of the Trolls. Lake Harris. Here at 10:30. So not bad going. It's been going 3.5 hours from campsite. Five hours Lake Mackenzie hut. 3.5 to the road end. The Rootbourne flats. And looking up the North Rootbourne, which is where we'd wanted to go, but this heavy rain forecast is just no way we're going to get across these rivers tomorrow with 20 mil of rain overnight. Just before 12 o'clock.
I call this the enchanted forest, towering red beach, ferns and the roar of the river cascading down through the gorge. Before long the Rootbourne shelter was in sight, with it the crowd of people that signals the end of the track. It turns out my 6-hour estimate was a bit conservative. I'd well and truly beaten it. Not bad for an old fella. Only 2 cars passed before a mother and daughter from California picked me up and dropped me in Glenorchy. By 3 I was back at the trailhead, ready to start the car shuttle runs for the rest of the crew. I really enjoyed putting the foot down today, covering familiar ground on a well-graded track. My enchanted forest section always leaves me grateful for the superb old-growth forest we still have in New Zealand. We ended the trip in style, a few beers, a hearty meal, and the satisfaction of 8 days well spent in the backcountry. A great weather window enabled us to make the most of this area, a relaxed, no-rush wander in the backcountry. Utilising the track network provides easy access above the bushline to some great remote tramping and camping options in the spectacular, challenging terrain. I would definitely recommend this area to groups comfortable travelling off-track in challenging terrain. See you on the next one. Check out my website for more trip ideas around New Zealand.